ActionSA has promised to uproot corruption, champion economic justice, and do away with the 350 Rand social grants. Now, these are some of the priorities the party delivered during its 2024 general election manifesto launch at Hammanskraal in Pretoria, where party leader Herman Mashaba says South Africans are tired of broken promises. Newzroom Afrika's Prof Mthethwa has that story.
The road to the 2024 general elections seems well underway. The first party to officially table its election plan to prospective voters is ActionSA. Officially launched virtually in 2020, the party says it's ready to go head-to-head with seasoned political parties.
And now, to the horror of our opponents, ActionSA will stand nationally and in every one of the 9 provinces of South Africa, and we will be on the ballot paper for every South African in this next election.
ActionSA leader says he will deal decisively with corruption.
We will declare corruption as public enemy number 1, reintroduce the scorpions, establish specialized courts to deal with corruption, and create a culture of ethical excellence within the public service.
The issue of border management also made it to the list of key priorities in the party's manifesto.
We will secure our borders and overhaul home affairs, clamp down on corruption and the issuing of fraudulent documentation. And we will deport undocumented criminals that have no right to be here in our country.
ActionSA has been making great strides in Gauteng. However, some provinces such as the Eastern Cape remain the strong base of the ruling party.
Masiyeke ukunyamezela, masiyeke ukucinezelwa nguhulumende wethu. Ixesha lifikile sibakhuphe ohulumende bethu.
The 2024 general elections are set to be highly contested, with new kids on the block having to challenge the established parties at polls. The stage is set. South Africans will have the last say on which party or coalition parties will get the mandate to ascend to the union buildings. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Prof Mthethwa at Hammanskraal in north of Pretoria.
Right, let's get some reaction to that with political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi. A very good morning to you. You know, just listening to what Herman Mashaba had to say, what do you think the odds are for ActionSA ahead of next year's election? Some bold promises being made there by Herman Mashaba, especially at a time like this where crime is completely out of control, escalating to the highest levels. What are your thoughts?
Hi, good morning, Mpho, and good morning to the viewers. For me, just to start with, I strongly believe it's a bold move by ActionSA, not waiting for other political parties, but they actually setting the tone in terms of launching their election manifesto. And I'm not surprised if issues such as, immigrants, illegal immigrants, corruption and crime has been some of these fundamental aspects that have been advanced by Herman Mashaba, by ActionSA, and I'm not surprised that these are also part of their 5 key priority areas for their election campaigns. And yes, if you look at the issue of crime in South Africa, unacceptable. We keep on talking about this and we can't get tired about this. South Africans are prisoners in their own country. The level of crime is unacceptable and there needs to be a concerted effort, and it's welcoming irrespective of which political spectrum you're sitting. I strongly believe that when political parties deal with the fundamental challenges that citizens face, it is quite welcoming.
ActionSA is perhaps still referred to as the new kid on the block, only 3 years old, having been established in 2020, and first time running on such a scale as we head into the elections in 2024, and also having had some disagreements with other parties when it comes to talks around coalitions. What are your thoughts around the strategy of ActionSA and where it stands as we go into these very, well scrutinized elections with a lot of remarks and analysis around the prospects of the ANC.
Yes, talking of strategy, winning an elections or garnering election support requires an election strategy. And for that strategy to work, you need champions, you need foot soldiers. And if you look at the setup, the makeup of this ActionSA, you've got people in the Free State leaders, Patricia, Kopani, a formidable leader, former DA member, key leader. You've got Arthur Trollip in the Eastern Cape. And I strongly believe it's leaders with these expertise that can garner support on the ground for ActionSA. But at the end of the day, it just does not end there. You need these champions at provincial level, but will they be able to muscle, garner support at the most basic level, and that is in some of the rural areas in the Free State, in the Eastern Cape. And it all depends if they are going to make a concerted effort from today, because elections are not won on the eve, and they will need financial resources. But I strongly believe they do have, the support, but whether that will mean turn into electoral support, that is something else, and they will have to work extremely hard to fulfill their dream. And I see they have a South African dream that was launched in February, and the election is now to give, cadence to that particular dream. But it will take a lot of effort to ensure that that dream comes through.
In fulfilling the dream and bringing in the efforts, I would imagine that the talk around coalitions is also going to be quite crucial. What's your take on the ActionSA and coalitions, given some of the talks we've seen around the sort of tone of ActionSA and working with other parties?
Yes, perhaps we should take it to another level. If you look at the opposition, I strongly believe that, yes, to a certain extent, the opposition is trying to consolidate what they had. But for me, the opposition politics in South Africa was much stronger when Musi was still at the Democratic Alliance. And when you've got such a key player, I mean, they regard themselves as the sixth largest party, disagreeing with the so-called multi-party forum or, the bloc of opposition parties, that in itself weakens the opposition. And I foresee a situation that even those who have now openly pronounced that they are part of that, there might be a lot of disagreements on the eve of the elections. And parties such as SNA, ActionSA, I think the message that they are sending to South Africans is that they are independent, and when things does not align with their ideologies, they will not just necessarily join any coalition for the sake of joining them. And this is not forthcoming from other political parties, where we see that when it suits them, then they make certain pronouncement, but then on the next day, then they withdraw from that. And I think that is a bold statement.
Yeah. Just talking about the opposition, just squizzing through the front page of the Sunday Times, it talks about a really dramatic twist ahead of the 2024 elections of top businessman Roger Jordan meeting with DA leaders for talks about becoming the face of the multi-party charter and possibly South Africa's next president if the coalition can garner more than 50% of the vote. What do you think about this? I mean, really, really dramatic move from business to full-on politics.
Paul, I'm going to state it again. There's absolutely no way. So there's no if for me. The coalition, opposition, no opposition party, whether collectively will be able to win next year's general elections outrightly. It is just impossible unless I need some lessons in mathematics and all that. But the chances is the ANC is definitely going to take a huge blow. There will be a huge challenge, but I can't foresee that. But let's talk about this. If you're such as businessman, if he has been an active member of the Democratic Alliance, there's absolutely nothing wrong. But we have seen on numerous occasions, and these are not issues that we thumbs up. We do research on them, where somebody, a prominent businessman who has been pumping money in a party, has suddenly been peddled as a candidate. you are hurting the emotions of people who have been active, your foot soldiers, and that's where the problem comes with parties who go that route. If he has been an active member, then it's fine for the Democratic Alliance, but I think it will be almost suicidal if they are going to use his face for the sake of the resources that he brings to the party.
Yeah. Yes, the ANC support, yes, will decline, but, likely to keep control nationally in 2024. We also listened to what EFF leader Julius Malema had to say, really just questioning the sanity of anyone who believes that the ANC will stay in power.
Well, I'm not going to respond to Julius Malema. What I can say, it's in the public domain. I need to be convinced on the basis of what? I mean, if you look at the electoral performance of the EFF, the Democratic, even ActionSA, you can take the top 4 political parties and forget about the multi-forum that was initiated by the Democratic Alliance, even together, and forget even about the ideologies. I mean, they themselves can't even sit on one table. So my question is, how and who? Yes, the ANC is facing challenges. I'm not a spokesperson. I've never been a spokesperson of any political party, and I will never become one. But fact of the matter is, we need to look at reality. When you speak about these kind of things, it's not that you are aligned or emotions. Fact of the matter is, even if the ANC can get below around about 48%, they will still be in the driving seat, and they will not take the ANC a huge effort to try and convince the very same parties that is part of these coalitions and agreements will then jump when they are offered certain incentive, because that is the nature, very unfortunately, of our politics. We look at what we can get out instead of how can we advance the interest of South African citizens. And that's why we are where we are as a country, politically, economically, and anyways.
Another interesting take, as we still on the topic of the ANC, the City Press is leading with the headline, ANC's disastrous finances laid bare, saying that the governing party is essentially broke, dealing with mounting debt and drying coffers ahead of a very decisive election, Professor Matebesi, in less than 6 months. How is this going to happen for the governing party with, suggestions that the party is broke and elections being around the corner?
Yeah, I'm actually smiling at this because I strongly believe that the ruling party has found itself on many occasions in a similar situation, but perhaps this did not reach the media. There's a lot of things, shenanigans happening behind the scene, clandestine and all that. So, and we all know how, the ANC has been operating, where you will find that businessmen will fund the party who gets tenders and what from the government will suddenly come to the front. That hopefully the same will happen, although this is something that we don't encourage. But a very fundamental aspect that you brought on the table now is that elections need financial resources. Elections need foot soldiers, and it will definitely dent a party which we all know actually will set the tone in terms of launching the election manifesto, the launches throughout South Africa. You will need to buzz in. All that will need financial resources, and to a certain extent, if they will not be able to garner all these financial support, it will be a huge blow for the African National Congress. But I strongly believe that they will devise the electionary machinery of the party will devise means to navigate around this particular challenge.
And really just wrapping up, we were essentially talking about ActionSA and that 2024 manifesto launch, but The other aspect in the midst of the big promises that have been made by Herman Mashaba is perhaps some analysis on his leadership style. I mean, a lot of talk around ActionSA leadership being exposed as a one-man show by party president Herman Mashaba, and suggestions and allegations that, he's surrounded by yes men. What do you make of his leadership style? Does he have does he bear the hallmarks of a president? I mean, should things turn to that way?
Yeah, a very difficult question to respond to, because we would have to ask ourselves who in South Africa has the characteristics of a president. I strongly believe that, yes, Herman can become a president of South Africa. There's absolutely nothing wrong. And that complete discomfort of being a leader, it's when you become decisive, especially if your baby's still young. You need to take section, a lot of decisions on behalf of the organization. And I strongly believe that to a certain extent, yes, perhaps this is what has been happening. And I think the same applies to the EFF when people will always say Malema, that. But there are moments where leaders of any organizations have to put their foot down and take the lead in terms of decisions and steering the ship. But we are a democratic country, and we think that all political parties aspire to be seen to be democratic. And let us hope what has been happening in the branches of the ActionSA will not come to haunt them when they need all their ground forces to campaign for the party.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, political analyst, Professor Sethulego Matebesi, giving us some analysis there as ActionSA launches its 2024 elections manifesto.